Hi Lauren, this is just a video to go ahead and explain to you what happened with your exam one, my review of it, and how you're doing in the course right now. So first of all, these are the notes you turned in. I've scanned them and I've worked on them, gone through your exam. Notice that before I reviewed your pre-calculus exam one, you had a 55.94%. And after my review and finding partial credit that, of course, my math lab cannot find because it can't see your work or count your work, you now have 73.58% on the exam, and your overall percentage grade in the course is in 81.41 right now, which is a B minus slash B. So just want you to know you're not doing nearly, I know you're kind of panicking and things aren't going so well, so you have a lot going on in your personal life, but you're doing fine in the course. I know you wish you could do better, and I know you probably would do better, but you're doing absolutely fine, so don't get too down about things. Okay, so again, I've gone through everything. If you ever see a check mark with MML there, that means that was graded completely correct on your exam already, so I'm not going to delve into that. It's already correct. What I do delve into is things that were incorrect. So you had questions 1, 2, and 3 correct on your exam already. So in question 4, you simply did a sort of a silly mistake here where you actually had x squared plus 14x. When you added 14x here to 3x here, you got 22 somehow. It's 17. Otherwise, you were correct. So part B over here was really correct if you got that 14 plus 3 correct. So I just changed the grade from, what was it before? It was 0.67 up to 0.95 out of 1. Let's see, question 5, which I put down at the bottom because you didn't have any work, but even questions that you didn't have work for, I looked at to see if I could see what you were thinking. So in question 5, I actually did raise your score from 0.33 to 0.67. Here in part A, I think both of these parts, what happened is you didn't notice that at 4 here, the function becomes constant again because you put that the function is increasing from -2 to infinity, which would have meant that this would have just kept going up. But it becomes constant at 4, so it should have just been -2 to 4. And then similarly, that's the same thing down here. It would have been constant from negative infinity to -2, and then 4 to infinity, both of those. Somehow you put, you meant this guy, negative infinity, -2. You kind of reverse these numbers, which you got to be careful. That's not correct either. But bottom line is you did improve your score there. Let's see, question 6. Is there any place you had question 6? Was I able to do anything? Trying to remember why. Let's see, question 6. Well, I don't think I quite looked at this. I don't remember looking at this problem. So let's see. You didn't have any work, but let's see if I can see what you were thinking. The interval in which f is decreasing, so the only place, like if you're walking along this function, you're walking uphill until you get right here, which is at x equals 3. So it's decreasing from 3 to 6. And we never include endpoints. Okay? So it's 3 to 6. Now what did you put? You included that endpoint. So I'm going to actually raise this score a little bit too on you. Okay, so 3 to 6, you just don't want to include that endpoint. Let's see what's wrong here. The interval or unit of intervals represents the values for which f of x is less or equal to 0. Select the correct choice below and fill in the answer boxes to complete your choice. So where is it negative is basically what it's saying, or 0. So it's also 0 at x equals 6. Maybe that's what you didn't include. Let's see. Yeah, you got negative infinity to 0, and you want to include 0 in this case because it's actually 0 at 0, and we want less than or equal to 0. And you also want to include the value x equals 6, so that would have to be included as a single number like this. So you had the right idea in both of these. I think I'm going to go here from 0.67. It's half of 33 would be about 17. Let's go to 0.84. So actually your grade is going to be a little better, and your overall grade is going to be a little better. We'll look at that when we're done. I'm surprised I missed that one. Okay, yeah, good. So your test score actually is 74.16. All right, so 7, 8, 9, I think those were already correct. Yep, 7, 8, 9. Let's see, then 10. 10 was already correct. So 11. Let's see, 11. You didn't have any work, but this was a graphing problem. So what I noticed here was that you chose this. So you got the vertical shift right. You shifted it up the y-axis. You knew to come up 6 units. Okay. You also had the stretching right. You knew to stretch it. That's what the 2 is. You just went the wrong way. So x minus h would mean go h units to the right. So since it's x minus 3, that means you would have wanted to go 3 units to the right, not 3 units to the left like you did. So I changed that score from, because you got the stretching 2 here, and you got the shifting vertically with the 6 here correct. You just didn't get 1/3 of it correct. So that's 0.67 now instead of a 0. That was number 11. Increased score from 0 to 0.67. Number 12, reflected about the x. Oh, let's look at it. So here the minus square root function would reflected about the square root function, which if you follow my cursor, it looks like that. But minus would reflected about the x-axis. So you have that correct, which you have it reflected correctly, but again, you went the wrong way, right? So x plus 7 is the same as x minus a minus 7, which means you want to go 7 units to the left, not 7 units to the right in this case. I think you have your horizontal shifting kind of backwards in your head. Remember, it's x minus h would be shifted h units to the right. So if it's x minus a minus 7, that means we're going to shift it 7 units to the left. So I increased that score from 0 to 0.5 because you got half of it correct. All right, 13 and 14 were already correct with my math lab. Okay, 15, you didn't give me anything, and I felt like I could do some stuff here because I could kind of see what you were thinking even without the work. So you wrote on this x minus 1 over 6 is the correct answer for the inverse. You wrote 1/6 x, which is correct, but it should have been 1/6 x minus 1/6. Right? Notice that that's what it should be. So how do you find the inverse? You didn't show me, but you switch the x and the y, and then you solve for y, and then that y is your inverse function. So x minus 1 over 6 is your inverse function, or 1/6 x minus 1/6. You wrote that. So I'm just giving you some benefit of the doubt as to, I'm not sure why you didn't show me that work, but 0 to 0.5. All right, and that's 15. Let's go to 16. 16, again, similarly, in this one, you just need to know that the function is symmetric with respect to the line y equals x. So I could see that you were looking at symmetry here, but this almost looks like it'd be symmetric with y equals minus x, symmetric with respect to y equals minus x. This is the correct one for symmetry with respect to y equals x. So if you look back, here's your original function given. Then how do I make that symmetric with y equals x? Well, then my inverse function would have to be something like this. Okay, so anyways, that went from 0 to 0.5 as well. And then on 17, another one where you didn't show me any work, again, finding the inverse function. Right, so I went and found it for you. We can switch x and y. So when you do that, this becomes x equals y minus 12 quantity squared. So then you take the square root of both sides, you get y minus 12 equals plus or minus the square root of x. Now you have to know which one of these it is by understanding the symmetry about the line y equals x, which means it have to be y equals minus, it have to be the function minus square root of x. So I had to go this way. And then solve for y, add the 12. So the domain here is that x has to be positive, because you can look in the, which is the same as the range of the regular function. And that range is the same as the domain of the regular function. The range of the inverse is the same as the range of f, the domain of f, and the domain of the inverse is the same as the range of f. So always remember that. So I increase your score here from 0.2 to 0.45. There's some intricacies here. Looking at this, I don't see how you got. I don't see how you got your answer here. This doesn't make sense. So this doesn't make any sense either. But looking at the graph, I felt like I could do something. And it seems like you have the domain and range kind of semi-backwards, right? 0 to infinity. And then this should be minus infinity to 12. And you have, I don't know, you got that. But so I thought some benefit of the doubt was worth it. Okay, so let's see. Let's go back. 18, you had exactly the correct answer, except you didn't simplify. If you go to instructions for 18 simplify. So the square root of 18 is indeed 3 square root of 2. So I increased your score almost to 100%, but it did say to simplify, so give me 0.99 out of 1. 19, I think there's a similar situation, sort of. You just made a silly mistake here because you had the right completing the square procedure, which would have made this x plus 2 quantity squared, right? X squared plus 4x plus 4, that's x plus 2 quantity squared. You have y minus 1 squared to correct in your answer. So somehow you got x plus 4 squared, but I know what you were thinking when you did that. You did the work correct. You got the radius correct. You got your graph wrong because of yours, but your graph is right according to what you had put in of x plus 4 squared. So you just came over to minus 4, 1 instead of negative 2, 1, which it should have been for the center. So I increased your score on that problem from 0.25 to 0.9 because you really had most of the ideas correctly. And then let's see, 20, 21, 22. 20 and 21 were correct already. 22, did I do that? Where's 22? Did I miss 22? Let's see, did I do 22? No, 22 is already correct, sorry. So 23. So 23 and 24 are similar. You have to do a completing of the square on this again, which I know you know how to do because you did it before. Because you got to get it into the form of x minus h quantity squared plus k, and then the vertex is at hk. So that will tell you whether you have what the axis to symmetry is and what the domain of range is. Okay, so in other words, if you complete the square on the first one here, x squared plus 6x plus 3, so you look at the x squared plus 6x, take half of 6, which is 3, and square it, you add 9. Now I need to end up with still plus 3, so I have to subtract 6. Now I get x plus 3 quantity squared minus 6, so my vertex then is at negative 3, right, because it's x minus h squared, so minus a minus 3, so it's at negative 3, negative 6. Which means that your axis of symmetry is x equals negative 3 right at the vertex, right? Symmetric on either side of x equals negative 3. And your domain for a parabola is always minus infinity to infinity, which you had correctly, but your range here should be negative 6 to infinity because it doesn't get any lower than negative 6. So 24 is very similar, although 24 has you to look at that, asks you to look at that and say whether you have a minimum, what's value it is, etc. So once you complete the square on this guy, you get the 3 times the quantity x minus 3 squared plus 21. So because it's a positive x squared, that means we know we're going to have a minimum. The vertex here is going to be at 3, 21. So what happens is the minimum value is this value, 23. That happens when x equals 21, which happens when x equals 3. So when x equals 3, the minimum value is, let's see, did I do something wrong here? I got 3x squared minus 18, so that's 3x squared. I got x squared minus 6x plus 2. So to get plus 2, that should have been a minus 7 here, that's why. Minus 7. And then minus 7 times 3 is minus 21. This should have been minus 21. Yeah, this should have been minus 21. And that's fine. Okay, because I need my total. It should have been minus 21 here. So when x is 3, the domain is always minus infinity to infinity, and the range goes from, I don't like this minimum value. Let's see. Minimum value, 3x squared minus 18x. Minus 6 is in the problem, not plus 6. So redo this problem now that you understand. This should be minus 6. So this is not correct right here, okay? So be careful. But redo it and see that you understand how to do it. Okay, so that's 24. Let's see, I got to get through the rest of this problem. I'm going to make, let's see, 25. You actually answered correct. I can only make a video that's no longer than 15 minutes with the free version of Screencast. So I'm actually going to stop this because I want to go through the rest of this with you and then make a second video and send you both. Okay, bye.